All right, this is State of Mind. First of all, if you like what you see, hit that little button right here, and you can subscribe. I'm nervous actually because I'm interviewing an interviewer, and somebody whose body and face it's just.
I like this intro, man. I like this intro. No, come on.
It's unreal. So that's why I had to wear this shirt to look sporty, and I wasn't gonna show my body at all, like a tight shirt, because it's like Steve Burton, you know. It's like Steve's have to be the biggest. He's just way too big.
Steve's got me by a lot.
No, I know, but he's way too big, and he knows it too. But he tries to act like he doesn't. Anyway, this is Cameron Mathison, a man of all trades. And I'm glad you're here, man.
I'm happy to be here, man. I really am. I really love what you're doing here with State of Mind.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job. And even in that intro, it shows exactly what I love about this is how honest you are and open you are. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know what I'm going to say.
he just is. That's why this is why it's so good, because so few people can just lay it out. There's no filter. It's great.
No, I don't. Whatever comes.
That's why I love it.
Where'd you grow up, man?
Grew up in Canada, in Toronto and Montreal. And then I moved to the States for all my children. I moved in '97 to New York for the show.
Really?
I stayed in the States since then, yeah.
You auditioned in Canada?
I was living in Canada, and I came down for the weekend to see some buddies in Manhattan. And I wanted to write off the trip to make it a write-off. So because I was working a little bit as an actor at the time in Toronto, because stuff was going on there at the time. And then I went to see an agency in New York just to be able to say this was a business trip so I could write off all my expenses. And they're like, I'd like you to go, just run over our friend Judy Wilson over to All My Children and just to go say hi or whatever. And so I was like, sure, that sounds exciting. I'd love to do that. That's more than I thought I'd get out of this. So the agency, who I wasn't even signed with yet, sent me over to Judy Wilson. Judy was like, you moving to New York? And I was like, yeah. No intention to move to New York at all. And she said, here, take this scene, take 5 minutes, and then we'll put you on tape. I was like, okay. It took 5 minutes, did a cold read. From that, I got a screen test. From the screen, I was the only guy screen tested, and then I got the job, and I moved to New York. It was insane.
But what you were studying before? What were you doing?
I was studying before. Well, I mean,
how old were you?
Barely. It was in engineering school, and I was sort of modeling and doing commercials on the side just for cash. I couldn't get a job. And my roommate, all through engineering school, was an actor. And I would run scenes with him. And then my girlfriend was in the business that I met through her. And then I started studying on the side, just, what I could pick up and as far as like little local coaches and local teachers. And still going to school. And then I graduated and making some money modeling a little bit. And then picking up little jobs, started booking little commercials. And American productions shooting up in Canada. Because I didn't have the typical Canadian accent. So I seemed to kind of like be booking. I was like, this is great. I was, my ratio of booking jobs per audition was pretty strong because they had
There's not a lot,
and they have a Canadian content requirement there. So their American production shooting in Canada have to hire a certain amount at the time anyway. I don't know if it's still the same. A certain percentage of Canadians. So they were like, small parts, but I was like booking little small parts all over the place. And then that's when I went to New York for the weekend.
So you stayed there for how long? 7 years?
I stayed in New York for initially probably about 7 years, left the show for a minute for less than a year, moved to LA, and then they, a bunch of guys left. All My Children, me, Consuelos, Josh Duhamel, Kelly Ripa, all left at the same time. The show was, I think they needed somebody to come back. They knew I'd come back for sure, and they offered me a good deal. I went running back. I loved it. I went back for another 5 years. I did 14.
What?
I did 13 years overall, yeah.
Well, I say what like it's a big deal, and I've been on 28.
Yeah, exactly, man. What are you saying? Yeah. So
I've been on 28 years, and I'm like, what? I know, that's just for the interview.
28 years.
Yeah, that's it. But I did All My Children too, and it's kind of similar. You have to understand something. This is interesting. When I got a little emotional, I had been in a mental hospital, right?
Yeah.
and I escaped, and then the whole whatever. And then I was depressed for a long time.
But that's part of the story. That's part of
No,
yeah,
yes,
of course.
and
Yeah.
that's why I wrote the book and stuff.
Exactly.
But I was at this point, I had been out of my depression. I was feeling better, and they came to San Francisco, and I auditioned, and they were going to fly me out to do a screen. Same thing.
That's wild. It was your first screen test.
Yes, first screen test. And on the plane there, I remember, because of everything that I had been through in the hospital and the depression and a lot of people feeling like he's never going to make it, I really felt on the plane that I have to get this. I have to. Because it may not be good for me. Do you get it?
Yeah.
To go all the way to New York
Yeah.
and then come back with no job, it might have been...
Yeah. You never know. You just
Right.
don't know how it's going to...
Exactly.
Yep.
So I went, did the screen test, did another screen test for another character, and they called. And I thought because she says, you didn't get the role. And I said, really? And she said, but we're going to create a role for you. Wow. And so on the plane back, I really, it kind of helped me a lot.
Yeah.
To be able, because that was the first
You
time.
found that out before you flew home? Like
Yes.
you knew that
Yes.
going home? Which,
Yes.
by the way, everybody, that's not
That
always the
doesn't-
case.
no.
Yeah.
Because
So right away they knew.
they knew.
Yeah.
And it helped me, and then I did it, and the rest is history. So you growing up with your parents, how were they, and how was that? And,
Well, they all thought I was going to MBA, engineering. I graduated with a structural civil engineering degree, and they thought I was going to get my MBA and go on to do business. And so when I took a hard left turn and and started doing this, I mean, they were always supportive and they were always proud of me, especially when their friends could watch me on TV and stuff, and that was kind of fun for them. But I think they were always waiting for me to kind of get back to school, get back to my business background.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, they
sure.
don't know. They were both professional
Sure.
and super supportive and loving and whatever. But at the same time, this was very foreign to. It was very foreign to me. Like, this was not my world I grew up in, other than my roommates, getting exposed to it like that. But through the years, they just knew. And once I really so when I got to New York, I started studying with an incredible coach, Tanya Berezin, who's taken all the young actors on All My Children at the time, and we were working together. And then I started studying with a guy named Bob Krakauer in New York as well, who was amazing. And then I was like, this is it. No, regardless of what happens at All My Children, because you can come and go on that, one of these shows in 5 minutes. And then after that, they were like, okay. All right.
Now they feel safe.
I don't know if they ever felt safe. They felt like this was the direction. Like, in other words, I think they stopped waiting for me to kind of maybe get this out of my system and kind of go back into more of a secure world or a secure kind of job. But they knew. They're like, all right, this is what he's doing. This is who he is. It was great. The only reason I started in engineering is because I did well in math and science, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So when this kind of happened, it was the other side of the brain. And
so you're the triple threat then?
At least a double. What's the triple?
No, I'm going to tell you triple.
What's the triple?
You're hella smart, hella good looking, and you can act.
Oh, man.
You are a triple threat.
I thought you were going to go like acting, hosting. That's what I thought.
Oh shit! You're the how do you call that?
No, I don't know. A quadruple? I don't know. But I mean, ultimately, and this is one of the things, and like you've been steady, like you say, 28 years in this medium, but also done many other things over time. And so it's important to do that. And so one of the things that's been tough for me to be taken a little bit more seriously in the acting side of things is that I really do love the unscripted or the hosting side, and I've done a lot of my career is in that world. But for me, and being the only provider in my family, it's been allowed me to kind of been able to keep things going, man. Like kind of hedging both sides. It's tough out there in the acting world, man. You got to keep it going. All My Children gets canceled. I would have been there forever.
Right.
Plain and simple. I would have been there forever for sure if they had me. Got canceled. So, then I started doing other things, more hosting and doing Hallmark movies and Lifetime and things like that. And
how did you know you could be a host?
You know?
You just got no. I mean, I've talked to you about this.
Yeah.
Like you just got no nerves, or what's going on?
No, I mean, I was super shy as a kid, like as a teenager, super crazy shy. I was handicapped. Talking about state of mind, I was handicapped with a disease in my hip bones called leg perthes. I didn't walk until I was 7. I had a massive contraption on my legs. And I was like, you know, at the time, the crippled kid, the people that stared at. So growing up.
For how long when you were a kid?
From 2.5 to 7, night and day. I had this massive A-frame metal brace on my legs.
How did that affect you as a kid?
It was like, you know. Like,
mentally.
It literally defined who I was. I mean, you don't know. As a kid, you become in your mind, and maybe people can relate to it. Maybe it's not a disability. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like a mental disability, whatever it is. I really thought of myself as this crippled kid. One of the reasons that I definitely got so athletic and tried to stay in shape and got aesthetically, you know, whatever, is to overcome that identity that I really kind of bought into as being this like crippled kid that the parents would say, honey, don't stare at him. You know, it was
wow.
You know, it was kind of freakish in many ways.
How long did that last?
So it was like a big, wide metal A-frame that I put my legs in. I slept in. Imagine as a dad, putting your kids to bed, lifting them in. The only time it ever came off my legs is when I was in the bath for 4.5 years. You know, very formative 4.5 years. So believe me, it could have been a lot worse. A lot of people that have this degenerative bone disease in their femur bones, it's not as good of an outcome. So I was fortunate. But I mean, mentally, this...
Yeah, from 7 to what did you start accepting that that's what it was, as opposed to feeling like there's something that really messed my mind up, having gone through that?
Through my 30s.
No!
Come on, man. Yeah, that's a big reason why... I remember when I was in engineering school and a guy came to me and goes, dude, like you should try modeling, whatever. Like it was in a bar. He was like a model or whatever, he's a buddy of mine. And he's like, just go to see this agency, make some money. And honestly, the reason, so A, the money sounded pretty good, but B, another reason I even explored it was for my self-worth. Like thinking, God, really? Like that's how you see me? Like you don't see me, you know, like it definitely wasn't a surface thought process. Like this is, you know, but part of the reason that I really pursued the attention was because I used to get a very different kind of attention. And I'm just, you know, like you get older and you realize and you see how things kind of manifest and the decisions you make, or at least I can speak for myself, decisions I make. And I realize it now that a lot of the things that kind of drove me in that direction, I mean, you remember back in the day, Maurice will remember this, back in the day, there was nobody at these like autograph signings that would be like taking their shirt off and getting cheers and attention. Like it was a bizarre thing. It was Steve and me. But I did it like all the time. And I remember like it was definitely looking for that validation.
Get you.
Definitely, like, you know, it was kind of fun or whatever in the moment. But I think I liked it a little too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what
I
know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Did you any kind of therapy to help you get through that?
Sure. I went to, not for a while, but I started, you know, going to therapy and couples therapy because this was affecting my my relationships as well, for sure. But
in what way? I'd love to hear that.
Well, you know, to be completely honest, and my wife and I have worked through a lot of stuff, but back in before all my children and certainly through certain years of all my children, that attention was very important to me, and getting attention from women, and
me too.
That validation, and you know, so
let me interrupt you because this is really a great talk right now. But this is
good,
amazing.
man. It's good. Maybe it could help some people.
Yeah.
So.
Because I know that yours came from what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mine came from ego.
There you go.
You don't have an ego.
It's hard.
No. Don't give me that. You don't have an ego. I know you. And I'm never, you don't have that. I had an ego. I'm still working on it. But, so that's interesting to me.
It's good insight, though. I mean,
but yours came, see, sometimes we don't know things.
Mine came from the opposite.
From the opposite. Yeah. And we don't know things because we and I won't say that I did this, but I'll just say this.
Yeah.
We see you taking your, because I told Steve one time, he's taking his shirt off, and me and Tony Geary were watching it on TV on the Regis.
Yeah.
And Steve came in and we said, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Taking your shirt off?
Yeah.
You're an actor. Don't do that."
Yeah.
Because I was like an uncle or a dad to him.
Yeah.
But we don't know the other side of it.
Right.
For you,
Yeah.
there was a real deep-rooted thing
For sure.
that made you want to, and did it affect your wife too, or?
Yeah, she definitely wasn't crazy about me doing all that stuff. But I mean, I've been open about this too. Made a lot of bad decisions too, going too far with certain early in my time with her or with other women, and we worked through it. And that's when the therapy came in, and the couples therapy, and really looking and understanding and asking yourself. It's a very bold thing that you've been able to do, and very rare. That I like to put myself in that category too, where you take a really good hard look at yourself and you look at ways that you can improve yourself, and what are some of the reasons that we're kind of going down these paths that cause a lot of unhappiness and suffering, and these mental habits and these sort of emotional habits that we can do and that cause us to make bad decisions. And that's when the therapy came in, and it was like, and it really changed my life, and it changed my relationship, and now we're better off than we ever have, and we've ever been. So it's pretty
That's
incredible.
a beautiful
man.
thing.
It's pretty incredible.
And the kids help.
Yeah, well, yeah, having kids helps, but I got to be honest, like, in the early years, I had young kids, so it took some time.
Yeah.
It's really, really tons of regret, tons of shame around that, but being open and talking about it, and being, with Vanessa, and we're proud of it. Like, we're at a point now, one of the things that you talk about in State of Mind is being able to transform your worst parts and things that your most difficult times into something that's really positive. And I feel like I've been able to do that through the journey and talking about it and helping people. And it wasn't the answer. Like, I thought that I needed that. I thought it was like the adoration or the validation. It's actually a weakness. It's an absolute weakness.
Yes.
And I feel so much more grounded and solid. And
How old are you?
I'm 51.
Yeah, it took me 58 years to figure it out somewhat.
Damn.
So you're getting to
Look
kind
at the
of...
two of us, man. We're figuring it out, dude. Like, it's taking some time, but for you guys out there, if you're thinking about it, it's not the way to go. No. It's not the way to go.
No, man.
Don't
Work
do
on
it.
your inside,
Yeah,
not everything else that comes with it.
It's like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah. That's amazing, because we don't really know each other that well. We haven't had deep talks, and this is a really great deep talk with Cameron that I didn't know what it was going to be, but I'm learning, and I love that when I learn here. What happened when you got, well, first I want to tell me about Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, so that was, at that point, my wife and I were in a pretty good place, and Dancing with the Stars was a cool experience. So that was back in 2007 or so, I think. I did season 5. I was with Edita Slavinska, who's one of the most beautiful women on the planet.
Yeah.
She literally is like genetically flawless. Like, it's out of control. And so then here we go again. Now I'm spending like 12 hours a day with one of the most beautiful women on the planet. She obviously had a solid relationship with her husband. I'm now in a good place. But the show was amazing. My wife and I kind of made it work, and we worked it out. I was doing all my children in New York. 120 pages of dialogue.
Oh,
week.
no.
You know what I'm saying? At the time, right now you guys do more. But at the time, that was a lot. I was doing it in 3 days, because that's all I had there. Taking red eyes, trying to learn how to dance.
I don't know how you do it.
It was nuts. But it was exciting. It was when the show was really big, too. And so it was something that I really had a good time. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Do you know that when I came to visit you there?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. And do you know what happened when I left? When I was outside?
I don't think I remember.
Waiting to go in and sit down?
Do I know this?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I've said it already, but it's interesting that you were there that night. I was outside, and Floyd Mayweather came out, and he walked down the stairs.
Yeah.
And I went up to him. I'm a big boxing fan.
Yeah, of course, he's a legend.
Yeah, and I said, "Hey, I just want to say I'm a fan of yours." And, I went to shake his hand, and he looked at my hand, and he looked at me, and he didn't shake it.
What?
Now, I'm a fighter, right?
Yeah.
So my first thought was, I'll kick your ass. And then my second thought was, it's Floyd Mayweather.
It's always that second thought that can
Right?
save our
And
ass,
then Jim came down and said, hey, Floyd, this is Maurice. He's the biggest in his world like you are in your world. And Floyd,
we're talking about Jim Warren,
Yeah.
who's a buddy of both
Right.
of ours. Yeah, I love
and
Jim.
and Floyd said, I doubt that.
Ooh.
And I said, he goes, Cameron Mathison is.
Oh my God,
No, this is no bullshit.
How did I get dragged into this,
Yeah,
man?
he said that. And I said,
Oh.
Cameron's great. This is what I said.
Yeah.
Hold on, though.
We're good, though.
Okay, we're good.
I
But
mean-
I said, Cameron's great, but he ain't me.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And then-
just say it like it is.
And then Floyd, it became this.
Oh God.
We were right in front of each other. This got ugly.
It's
And then
not
his
cool.
manager came in and said, Floyd, let's go. Because his manager knew, it's because he knows Floyd,
Yeah, he knows
that there's
Floyd.
something ugly here.
Yeah.
And then that night was horrible for me. I didn't go watch you, or I left, went home. I just felt ugly.
Oh yeah, that can really just.
Yeah, he messed me up.
Wow, man.
But-
Especially coming like somebody that you probably looked up to. At the
Yeah,
time.
well, I thought he's probably the best defensive fighter, but I've always wanted him to lose, and I used to bet on him to lose, and he never lost.
Especially after that night. Especially after that night, you were betting on him to lose. Yeah, he never lost. Exactly. That's a tough bet. I mean, when you're 50-0, isn't he 50-0?
50-0.
Yeah.
But it was funny that you were involved. You don't even know. It's funny.
Exactly. And by the way, I guarantee you, I'm the only guy that he knew in daytime, just because I was in the same season as him. He was in the same season, for people that don't know, so he was dancing at the same time. But anyway, man,
It's wild.
that's a gut like that. That just leaves such a. It doesn't matter. I mean, especially if you're Floyd Mayweather. But if somebody says something like that, anybody really, it can just.
Yeah, it's never. I've
linger.
never. Have you ever shook somebody's hand? Went to shake somebody's hand, they don't shake it.
Yeah, but I've had people say pretty horrible things, and they think they're being funny, or maybe because they're insecure, or maybe because they're jealous. But it still stays with me.
Yeah, I get
like
you.
it's still like that was just a horrible thing to say. Like, you know.
Do you care what people think?
Oh, I used to, man.
I'm working on it. It's getting better.
I used to. And I still do. But so much less.
Yes.
There's just a level of like, I mean, you know, people can say it comes with age, but it also comes with just kind of working on yourself and realizing that, you know, we're enough, and like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like we are what we are, man. It's like what you can't control what somebody else thinks of you. You know,
Nah, I
all you
know,
control-
but that's a killer, though.
it's a killer. It's a killer.
Especially when you're mentally ill, when you worry what people think, because those thoughts start going out of control, and you
Okay.
can't stop them. And then all you're thinking about is they don't like me or something, and this and this and that.
Yeah.
And now it's getting better, but I'm not 100%. I didn't know if you. I couldn't figure out if you had those thoughts.
Well, I mean, up until I started really kind of, you know, working on myself and wondering why I needed this kind of like validation or attention or whatever. Until up until then, that was everything.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think almost everybody does to some degree.
Yes, I get you.
You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to pretend like I don't at all, but it definitely doesn't affect me quite like it used to.
Yeah.
I bet you certain people, you know, like, you know, you want your parents to be proud of you. You want certain people to sort of respect what you do or whatever. I mean,
Yes.
certain people will be more.
I
I'd be
get
more
you.
like kind of gut punched if they.
Yeah. But I think like my problem has been that I've had that thought of thinking what people,
Yeah.
worrying what people think of me, just crush me, and that's not right. I can understand, you know, you get a little of it,
Yeah.
but when it crushes you, you gotta figure that out.
That's right. When it's
So-
like debilitating.
Yeah, but
Sends you home from a night where you were out.
or even depression comes.
Right. And then
That's
you're
what's happened to
into
me.
it.
Yeah.
Oh,
What so home
and family.
and family
Yeah.
is coming to is it or not?
Talk about no, it's out. It's definitely coming to an end. Home and Family is a show that I co-host on Hallmark Channel, which is, I think I can say, even though I loved All My Children, honestly, it was All My Children up until this point. It's my favorite job I've ever had, Home and Family. It's such a beautiful gig and so great for so many reasons. Coming to an end, just announced it. But, you know, again, you got to watch what your mind does. Like, I definitely was very graspy at this show lasting forever. Like, I wanted to ride this show into the sunset. It made me happy. It was a show about positivity. I got to be myself. I got to bring my family on. I got to bring my friends on. Maurice has been on there. Laura's been on. It was just such a great show. It's what I worked 51 years old. It's what I worked kind of towards on the hosting side of things. It's sort of the pinnacle. Even I've been on Entertainment Tonight. I've done Good Morning America. This was a great show. And guess what? Things end. You know what I mean? You got to move on. You have to accept it. And it's that real acceptance. There's still a little bit of rejection in my mind.
Yes.
And it's kind of foolish because it's ending, you know?
Yeah.
And by accepting it, you can kind of get into a solution-oriented place. Like by really accepting something, you can start working, okay, so what am I going to do? Great, it's coming to an end. What are my options? Look what's coming on. By rejecting it, it's like,
I know
it's
you
painful.
can't. I know you can't. You got to let it go.
You got to let it go.
Yeah. What? You had kidney cancer? What was
Kidney
it?
cancer, yeah.
How the hell does that? How? That's a scary. I mean, was it that scary? I mean, it had to be.
I remember the phone call. I went in, so for 2 years, I've had like, I'm really kind of in tune with how I feel and health issues and gut issues. And so I've had some sort of like gut issues that have gotten worse and taken sort of anti-acid medication, you know, for acid reflux and things through the years, and things just haven't felt good, energy low. And I've always gone into doctors, done tests, and some of the tests didn't make sense for a while. Like white blood cell count was off, sometimes high, sometimes low, like really weird. And nobody could really understand it. They always just said, no big deal, whatever. And I was like, can I just get an MRI in this area, in my gut area? I was pretty sure it was like stomach related. For years, I asked for this MRI. Eventually, they gave it to me because I'm pretty persistent. And I didn't really think that I had cancer, right? So I'm on the golf course and I get a phone call. The same day as my MRI, when you get a call from your doctor,
Yes.
4 hours later,
Yes.
it's a bad sign.
Right.
Pick it up, and he tells me the scan is consistent with renal cell carcinoma, kidney cancer, and it was like the world stops. I don't know if you've ever had anything where it feels dreamlike. Mm-hmm. You feel like, okay, am I waking? Okay, when am I going to wake up? This doesn't feel real. Like this can't be real. It was so scary that your mind protects you somehow. And your life kind of flashes, and you think of your kids, and you think about, like, are they going to be okay? You don't know if you're dying. I didn't know anything. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Yeah.
And how difficult? I mean, how the statistics? Is it as far as cancer? As
far as cancer goes, as long as it hasn't spread, which we didn't know at that point, but as long as it hasn't spread, I mean, this can sound weird, but it's a pretty good cancer to get. No chemo, no radiation. You go in, operate, you cut it out, you take out a kidney or part of a kidney. You have 2 kidneys. You can live with half a kidney or even less, right? So I've got 1 3/4 kidneys still. They operated, took it out. And it hadn't spread, so I'm pretty darn lucky. They think that my healthy lifestyle was a big reason why I didn't have the energy, the cancer. I don't eat a lot of sugar and carbohydrates, processed foods. That sort of gives cancer a lot of energy to grow and thrive. And it was in me for, they think, up to 8 years, and it hadn't spread. So,
how were your children at that point?
They kind of see, you know, they said now that they sort of see their dad as like, you know, Superman. Like they see their dad as like, you know, untouchable. And so when it was also very surreal for them to hear the news. But then I didn't tell them until I understood what it meant. I didn't tell them until I knew that it hadn't spread and that there was no chemo, radiation. It was surgery. It was a big deal, but it was like, this is very likely we got this. You know, like could be a lot worse. In many ways.
They came to the hospital and visited you?
Yeah, man. They came and they saw me after. And surgery was it was so painful, man. It was like, because they go in robotically and they blow you up with the CO2 gas, and they actually operate robotically, like inside you. So you've got all these incisions, but not like a big opening, right? And so you're inflated.
No.
And so the most painful part coming out of it, the incisions are like painful, but you know, they're logical. Like it's like an incision. You're like, oh, that hurts. Right. It's a cut. but the gas inside your body, your nerves, and you're literally like your body doesn't know what's going on. So until that dissipates and kind of passes through you, but again, in the grand scheme of things, I didn't go through chemo. I didn't go through any radiation treatments, and I have nothing to complain about at all, man. But just watch everybody. Let's just watch the toxins out there. Very likely it has to do.
Yeah,
with
talk about that. I want to hear.
Yeah, because everybody's like, "How can it happen? You eat so clean," and I do, and I exercise and everything. And honestly, so much of the rise in cancer has to do with a lot of the pollution and the toxins, and not only just the air, but also the food we eat, or to try to get the best quality food we can get. The plastics that we drink our water from, all it can creep in, the makeup, the things that go on. Just be real careful. Do the best you can. Just try to do the best you can. And I had I didn't know I had very high toxin levels in my body, environmental toxin, very high, which is definitely related to kidney cancer. Some of those probably came from some of the medications I took for that antacid.
Right.
There's been direct correlations made later. Also, I had levels of mold in my system. So had I known that, I would have been able to flush that stuff out. And
those doctors couldn't see that early on?
No. I didn't do any tests for that. I didn't do any toxicity tests or mold tests. I did all sorts of other tests, but none of that. There was indications. Now you look back and you see. And that's why those were all off. But
yeah.
Anyway, cancer-free, been over.
Beautiful,
a year now,
man.
So, yeah, I feel good.
Wow. Now, to wrap it up, Kelly Ripa and Mark are doing a Pine Valley thing.
Yeah, man. They haven't reached out to me. They reached out to you?
No, they ain't reaching out to me, man. I just had a little role, bro.
Dude, it's good for them. First of all, good for them. And they're going to, I think from what I understand, all I got from Consuelos from Mark was like, I just said, congratulations, send him a text. I didn't want to be that guy being
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I wanted to seem cool. And
you would be perfect.
And he said, thanks, man. It's really exciting. We got great stuff coming. And what I understand from Eva LaRue, who played Maria Santos, played Mark Consuelos' character's brother, they're going to really focus on the Santos family, and I believe also Kelly Ripa's family was, Haley's family.
Yeah.
So they're going to really focus on those. So they haven't reached out. But if you're looking, I got some time now. I mean, you know what I mean? Just give me a call, Mark. I'm around.
Man. All right. I'm going to let Cameron go because I just want to say this has been enlightening for me. I didn't know that Cameron. Well, I shouldn't say that because it makes it look like I thought he was kind of some jerk or something. But the reality is, I didn't know he was so that he looked at himself and he worked on himself and he looked in the mirror, which I keep telling people, keep looking in the mirror to find out what's wrong, because you're not going to find it anywhere else. And to talk to Cameron, it was a little bit, and I'm not going to say that but it was a little bit like talking to myself. Because we were kind of on a kind of connecting on that kind of level of two guys who he's not mentally ill, but two guys who have been through some stuff and keep wanting to be a better person. And I think you've done it, and I admire that.
Thanks, man. And I admire what you're doing with this, too, because I feel like on some level we can all improve our emotional and our mental health. You mentally ill, or I don't know what the range is, but I feel like I know I still got work to do.
Yeah, I do, too.
Still working at it, man. It's like a joyful path. It's like all it does is bring more happiness and more joy and more awareness in my life. So.
But see, what you just said is what a lot of people don't feel like. You just said it's a joyful path.
Yeah, it is to me.
That's the key. I've said this before, but my whole life I never experienced joy. Maybe happy at times, but not joy. Yeah. Joy to me means looking at my grandchild and getting teary-eyed, playing with my goats, and a tear falls down. You know, being able to laugh and not be this serious guy and not talk to people, that to me is joy. So the fact that you said joyous path is amazing. All right, buddy, before I start crying here, and
No, it's beautiful, man.
thank you.
I love you, dude.
Thank you, brother.
Beautiful.